Request video from Martin R. Cruz, who is 80% Filipino and 20% Mexican. Hello Kyle, how are you? Next video request. Do you like to watch the Olympics every time it comes on? If so, can you please talk about your thoughts on the Olympics in general and why? Who are some of your favorite athletes? Also, are you looking forward to the next... Oh wow, there's even more. To the next... Winter Olympics 2014 Sochi, Russia, and the Summer 2016 Olympics Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Thank you and have a nice day. Do I like to watch the Olympics every time it comes on? Yeah, dude, I love watching the Olympics. In fact, when the Olympics come on, I try to watch like everything. I try to be like a religious watcher, and I put everything below the Olympics. I'll watch anything. If so, can you please talk about your thoughts on the Olympics in general and why? Well, my thoughts on the Olympics in general? Well, I could talk about the history of the Olympics. The Olympics started in about 1350 BC. Yeah, long-ass time ago. It's from the town called Olympia, and it was a neutral town in the middle of the Peloponnesian Peninsula in Greece. And all of the different city-states would kind of donate money to keep it maintained, and then every 4 years they would send all of their best athletes over there, the rich people who could afford to do the training and buy the horses and all that kind of stuff. And the original games were wrestling. I think they did it naked and oiled up, which is so gay. And then sprinting and chariot racing was a really big one. The sprint was about like 50 meters or something, because I was at Olympia and I saw the actual thing that they sprinted down. It was pretty fucking cool. It wasn't that many different things that they would do, but wrestling was one of the big ones, which is really silly in that they're thinking about cutting wrestling from the Olympics. That's the most ridiculous fucking thing you could do, cut the wrestling. It's the original sport in the Olympics. Why would you cut that? Besides, it's really technical sport, and UFC, MMA fighting is really popular now, and wrestling is basically like half of what that is. It's half boxing, half and karate and all that stuff, and half wrestling. So it's the oldest sport, wrestling. So but the women they were really sexist in those days. The only sport that the women would do was sprinting, and they would run topless. But they didn't participate in any of the other ones, which is too bad, man. Imagine watching like chicks wrestling, nude wrestling. That'd be badass. Or like weight handicapped wrestling, male versus female, like nude oil wrestling, where you'd get the women who's 50 pounds heavier than the guy, and then have them go at it. That's badass. But they were pretty creative. So they had the Olympics, but they also had other games too. They had the Delphic games from Delphi, where the oracles were. Dude, Delphi is probably the coolest. Well, I'd say Machu Picchu, but Delphi is the second coolest archaeological site I've ever been to in my life, because it's right up on the side of a cliff, not a cliff, but like a really steep slope, like right at the base of these really big cliffs, and it's this whole city built up alongside it. And at the very top, they have this big track right at the bottom of the sheer cliff, where they would run around and do the sprints and all that kind of stuff. And then they had the Achaean Games, which was, I think, in Athens. But the Olympics were the ones that were the oldest and the biggest, and they lasted for like 1,600 years or something, from like 1300 BC all the way until like 350 AD, when the Christians outlawed it, because they thought they took that whole humanitarianism too far. They thought it was a distraction from being a pious follower of God and stuff, because it was just a backlash from all the barbarism from the gladiatorial combat and stuff, and took it too far, so they banned the Olympics, and that was it until 1896, when they had the first Olympics in like 1,700 years in Athens, and then they had it again in Athens in 2004. But so that's basic. And I think in Athens, in the original Olympics, they had lots of sports, but not nearly as many as they have now. But they had wrestling and not chariot racing, but running and all that kind of stuff. The ones that I like to watch are the female gymnastics, because their asses are just like so tight and round, and fucking they're so like they can do the double flips and stuff, and yeah, the stuff they can do is amazing, and the Americans do really well every time in those, and it's cool to watch them, you know, go and just nail it, you know, and that's probably what I like the most. And then beach volleyball, that's a good one. Dude, the athleticism in that is amazing. Like I remember like Misty May and Carrie Walsh, dude. They were like diving and like hitting the ball, you know, like horizontal, right, like an inch below the sand, and then knocking it back to her, and then she knocks it over. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, dude, beach volleyball, man. It's like one of the biggest Olympic sports now, too. It's weird. I always try to, you know, I grew up, you know, racing bikes and stuff as a kid, and I always wanted to watch the bike race, but you know, and they never have it on. I've never seen it. They like, it's one of the smaller Olympic sports or something. They never put it on TV. I remember saw a little bit of it in the 2008 Olympics. I managed to see it on TV, but the last Olympics that I saw, I was at the gym, watching it at the gym, and I didn't see any of that. I saw the swimming. Swimming is like boring to watch because it's just people going up and down, back and forth, but along the thing. But it's interesting. I mean, it's a big sport to watch, and it's cool for us to watch as an American because we do really well on it. We had Michael Phelps, and I remember seeing Michael Phelps get the silver by like that much, dude, because he didn't like reach out. You know, he didn't the timing. The other guy just got lucky. Michael Phelps was ahead. His head was ahead of the other guy, but the other guy just luckily just his stroke was just perfect, and yeah, that was kind of a bummer. I always like to watch the sprinting. I think one of the interesting ones for the running is like the 100-yard hurdles. Because you can, you know, it's more technical and you can see them jump over and stuff. And I like watching the girls do the sprints because, you know, they've got the tight, like, spandex on. They've got the muscular bodies, and I like chicks with the muscular bodies. And, yeah, they're hot. Holy shit. They've got the nicest bodies. I remember seeing the Australian girl win the hurdles, beating all the black girls. And she was not a nice body. Who else? Oh yeah, in basketball. I never watch basketball, but in the Olympics I'll watch it. I like watching soccer, even though it's, you know, the World Cup is bigger. I watch the World Cup every year. What else? I think they took synchronized swimming away, but that was I would look for that a little bit. Volleyball. I'll watch volleyball, indoor volleyball, because Americans do really well and stuff. And then you got those tall girls in the spandex. What else? What else do they have? Oh, the marathon is always cool to watch because you can see the packs of runners and the leaders all in the pack. And then, you know, it's interesting to like guess who's going to drop off the back and who's going to win. And, you know, just by looking at the form of the people running, like guessing who's got the best form, who's got the most energy left, and who's going to win. And that's interesting to watch. What else? Wrestling. I tried to get into the wrestling this last time, but I don't really understand wrestling. I guess you have to understand. That's the reason they're thinking about cutting it, because nobody understands it. You know, like I guess if you're a wrestling fanatic, you can, you know, all the little moves you understand and all that kind of stuff, and it's fascinating for them. But for a normal person, it's just people dressed in these weird spandex clothes rolling around with each other, and you're like, what? So yeah, I don't watch wrestling. Yeah, or boxing really. They should have MMA in the Olympics, man. They probably will pretty soon. Oh, I remember in 2008 I saw the first BMX Olympics. That was pretty cool. Because they were doing those giant jumps, dude, like just flying, dude, through the air. And the Americans did well too. I think they got the silver and gold, the gold and silver in the first one. And that's cool to watch. Now let's see, Winter Olympics. Oh well, I love what's it called? Figure skating. Figure skating is cool to watch because it's just like the gymnastics, you know. You can see all the technical, and when somebody nails it, you know, you're like, oh wow, and, you know, and the Americans do really well, and it's amazing to watch what they can do. Also, you know, all the spins and all that, and also, you know, when they screw up, see how they pick themselves up and continue. You know, what else? Winter Olympics. What other sports are there in the Olympics? They don't really cover the Winter Olympics as much, so I don't really know, what I haven't really seen much of that. But I mean, I guess half pipe is pretty cool. Skiing racing, I guess, is pretty cool. Americans do pretty well in the speed skating. That's cool to watch, but I know I'm forgetting stuff, but bobsledding is cool to watch just because it's cool to watch them go that fast. But now, another of his questions was, do I look forward to it? No, I don't look forward to it. When the World Cup's kind of coming around the corner, I look forward to that. But only when it's just around the corner. Yeah, it being in Sochi in Brazil, it's cool to, wow, Brazil gets the Olympics? Because they're getting the World Cup too. Wow, they're coming up in the world. That's going to be interesting, dude, because Brazilians love to mug foreigners, man. They're going to have a lot of cops out and about. But I mean, the World Cup in South Africa, that went down, so. I remember there was a whole lot of drama when there was Olympics in China because the Chinese caused a lot of problems. I remember some track cyclists showed up in the airport with masks on because they wanted to protect their lungs, and China got all bent out of shape about it, and that was funny. And then and with all the stress, the cyclists said that they made it so that they didn't do as well because of the stress. I think that's a fucking cop out, but yeah. If I wanted to watch the Summer Olympics, I'd want to watch the cycling. That'd be cool, mountain biking and stuff. But anyways, that's all I can think of. Yeah. It's cool to see that America kicks ass in all the Olympics. We always get the most amount of medals. We even beat China, and they've got like 4 times as many people as we do. All right. Oh, and diving is pretty cool, man. Chinese do really well at the diving. I watched that a little bit. Just because that was on the TV. Those were one of the sports that made it to the TV. Okay, peace out.